Let's point this mic at your mouth. So you want this part because it shoots this way.
Okay.
The front part?
Yeah. There you go. Welcome to the Real Alaska Podcast. I am your host, Justin, and my lucky sidekick / co-host,
Billy. Welcome to the Alaska Podcast.
Yeah, and we are here with
Jule Harle.
Jule. What do you do?
What do I do? All sorts of stuff. I own and operate the Alaska Packraft School. I authored and self-published the Alaska Packraft Guidebook. I'm a licensed professional counselor and an Ayurvedic health coach, and I also teach yoga.
Man.
Busy.
That's like, yeah. What do you not do?
I know. It keeps me out of trouble, though, having all these, I call them fun hustles. Like, my heart is in everything I do. I love all of my work. In the Indian and the Vedic lineage, we say dharma. Mm-hmm. It's a spiritual purpose. And so kind of how I operate spiritually, I try to show up and be present in that same manner with all the works I do, whether it's with staff or it's with participants or clients. But it's one of my life mantras: keep it fun. So work can be fun.
Awesome.
I like that.
Yeah, we try to do that on this podcast too. Like I know we've just kind of self-described our podcast as the initial start is usually, very professional, and then we start to dive down many rabbit holes.
It goes downhill.
And then we just kind of go from rabbit hole to rabbit hole. So, we follow the exact same mantra of just having fun. So we try to sometimes loop it back to, I don't know, what would you call it, Billy? Just like
Business.
Business.
Taking care of business.
Stuff. All right, business time.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. And then, sharing us without the whole pack rafting and all the stuff that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I love chatting about these hustles, and I feel like it helps people find the things that resonate with them.
Yeah,
That's right.
I actually didn't know you did all the other things besides the pack rafting. So that's all. I'm like, oh, it's like you almost sound like me. I have my hands in almost too many things.
Yeah, all side hustles.
Yeah. Well, with the whole pack, how did you get into pack rafting?
I moved to Alaska in 2007.
Uh-huh.
I had recently bought a whitewater kayak, and I was learning how to whitewater kayak. And I for 2 years, I finished an undergraduate degree psychology at Alaska Pacific University, where there was this block course. Block is it's about a month long. It's like a big chunk of time, so you can go into the field and be outside of the classroom. APU, Alaska Pacific University, that's their experiential education kind of model. So Roman Dial, who's the father of pack rafting, was teaching a pack rafting block course. And it was not really related to my psychology degree at all. But I was like, wow, I'm in Alaska. I'm learning how to whitewater kayak. My soul is drawn to being on water, on rivers, and I've always loved overland travel. You put a dot on the map and then another dot, and you're like, can we get from A to B?
Right.
And I'd only done that via foot, via backpacking. And so integrating, a floaty vessel, rivers. And in Alaska, there's so many rivers in Alaska, so much water.
Yeah.
So to, even if you're not riding the river and paddling whitewater, or you want to ferry across, get, to the other side of the river or paddle across lakes, it's a beautiful way to see more landscape. And so his block course, we took a swiftwater rescue course, kind of learning safety fundamentals, which is great. Like learn how not to get yourself into trouble. You don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And so I was so young, I was so fresh. I was like 19 or 20, and just getting into it, and swimming rapids and falling out of your boat and getting back in and throwing ropes and doing rescue practice was so fun.
It is fun. It's the best part.
Yeah, you do swiftwater rescue stuff. Yeah, you get it. And a joke, this is truth, but we're all between swims.
Yep.
If you're riding the river or doing any sort of water sports, you're going to fall out of the craft. And so what do you do when that happens? And it was a great learning environment that Roman created, and he really turned me on to packrafting. I didn't know what it was until I moved to Alaska. I had no idea it existed. So that's kind of where, my passion for packrafting was born. It was that fall, 2007. Got in the boat, and it changed my life. From then on, it's we did this. So we did like a week of day trips in the Anchorage Bowl area, raft packing. So
Really, in the Anchorage Bowl?
Yeah, Alaska's amazing, right? Like Anchorage is right next to Alaska.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that multiple times.
So you don't have to drive very far to feel like you're in a wild place.
Yeah.
And whether you're a skier, biker, climber, paddler, there's a lot of adventure elements out there.
Yeah.
And so Roman did a great job at curating. And now the Alaska Packraft School, we call it Week of Rivers, where we hike and we paddle and we do a different day trip each day. So he did something, he essentially did like a Week of Rivers in the South Central area. So I was getting familiar with the Chugach, with the Front Range, and familiar with the Packraft and how to pack it all up in your backpack and do and hike and then paddle and then, start and end at home. And so he introduced me to what packrafts can do beyond the road system. In the lower 48, there's a really strong whitewater culture.
Yeah,
almost like skiing is to Colorado, whitewater is to lots of other areas.
Yeah,
like lots of people paddle, but it's hardshell. The culture's changing. There's more packrafters in Alaska, obviously, but in the lower 48 and all across the world. But 20 years ago, they were very unheard of in the lower 48. And so hardshell kayaks and rafts or canoes, you don't really carry them around.
Right.
Is easily. So it was a kind of road boating culture or very few trips you can fly into in the lower 48, but you can. But then you've got all that gear and all that stuff. So even on like fly-in trips in Alaska, packrafts are cool. So we did a week of rivers, hiking and paddling. And kind of the capstone project was this 8-day trip from Nabesna to McCarthy.
Well, that's a good one.
Have you done that?
That's a long
I
trip.
have not done that, but that's a long way to go.
Yeah, that's a long way.
It's a banger. It is a long way.
How many miles is that?
It's funny. In the guidebook, I have everything written out in miles and distances and elevation and getting lost.
There's
over
a lot of
over
suspended
100
road in those rivers too. It's like they're sketchy rivers. They're strong. Big
Yeah.
water.
And it being more overland travel, I'd probably say 70% walking, 30% paddling. That we didn't get on any whitewater NAR in that course, and thank God, right? Because we're in these old school like pool toy boats, and so risk management, right? And you've got like 4 instructors, 8 to 10 students with all their gears, and we didn't put the gear inside the boats at the time. We strapped it on the front. And it's heavy,
right?
And so it was a class 2 and below, and that trip rocked my world. It was in the Regal St. Elias National Park, right? 13.2 million acres, biggest national park, and just the size of the terrain was amazing. The mountains are huge.
Yeah,
I was young, I was a spring chicken, but it kicked my ass. And I had to get flown out, a very unplanned evac when we were close to McCarthy, and so that moment I'd fractured my wrist. I was holding a rock, setting up your mega mid, freestanding tent, and we didn't have stakes because we were trying to be all agro, ultralight. So we use these big rocks to anchor the tent down. And I call them two-handers, where like you need 2 hands to pick them up. And I don't know what I was doing. I was probably drinking coffee or something. And I was like, I'll pick this up with 1 hand. And then I tried, and I fell over.
Oh God, yeah.
And my wrists went to shit. And so we were hiking, and I was unable to use my wrist, and it was really hard. And I was slowing the group down. And the Roman's like, weak link. She's having a bad time. And someone had flown out at Chisana. I think they had Giardia.
Oh.
And I didn't get in on that plane. I wasn't hurt yet. So I got hurt a day or 2 later. And then it kept swelling, kept getting inflamed and hurting, and I was slowing everybody down. And I remember at Skull Light Pass, I was just in tears. I was like, this sucks. I hate this. It's windy and rainy, and my arm hurts. And there was this helicopter in the air, and it landed. And Roman's like, Jule, do you want to get out? I was like, yeah. And he runs over, right, Roman dial style, just very fast and spry. And he comes back. He goes, they said you can get in. You got to go now. And so I was just like, I just got to Alaska like a month ago. And I'm injured, and I'm in these huge mountains, and it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, get in the chopper. And I took the food out of my backpack.
We have to add that in, by the way.
I mean, just bring Arnold Schwarzenegger into the podcast. I interview him one day. And so it was just all surreal. It all happened so fast, and they had to put on this fireproof suit.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm from Iowa. All of this is just very exotic. And I'm like, all right, like, bye, everybody. I'm with these guys now. Peace. And Nora Tobin, she's kind of an Alaska celebrity, did a lot of Alaska Wilderness Classic races. That was an Alaska Wilderness Classic route done in a longer stretch of time in a later time of year. We did it in September. But she's like, do you have any money? I was like, nope. Like, what's your plan? She's like, here's my credit card. I was like, thanks.
So that's cool.
Yeah. No, and
that's a cool gesture.
It is a very good gesture with wilderness risk management. Anytime I'm in the backcountry, I carry my ID and a credit card for this reason.
That makes sense.
If you get evac'd and you get dropped off somewhere, now what?
Oh, yep.
I tell my students and our clients.
We carry 2 blank checks when we hunt backcountry. We always take 2 blank checks.
For why? For that similar?
For that reason. They might not, like, if you don't, they might not take credit cards there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. When you get to these random places,
podunk
it's
places.
Like, I don't want to have to worry about that issue. Like, where can I swipe a visa?
Right.
That's a very Alaskan thing. Sometimes we're like 20 years behind everybody. Checks feel so outdated. I'm like, here's this piece of paper that says I'm good for some money.
Right?
Yeah.
But it works. I love checks. There's no credit card fees, so for business transactions,
Yeah,
it's
seriously.
sweet.
That's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
It's all the credit card fees.
Yeah, how to save money in like unsexy areas. Yeah. And so then I get in the chopper, and
it's a very businessy thing to say, by the way.
Chopper?
No, how to save money in unsexy areas.
Unsexy areas. Oh, yeah, there's so many unsexy things about running a business. You're like, this is going to be so cool. I work for myself. And you're like, whoa.
You're like, oh,
this
is not what I thought was going to happen.
Not what I thought was going to happen. So I'm in the helicopter, and they're like, so we're actually looking for a body. I was like, oh, okay. There was this man who was photographing mountains, and he had gone missing, and so it was a search and rescue effort.
Okay.
So it was a free pickup for me, and we were flying around, and they're like, yeah, this is the color of his tent, and this is where he's less identified. If you see anything, let us know. We didn't see anything on that flight, and they landed in McCarthy to refuel, and then I got out. And then there I was, and then they left. And I didn't sign anything. I didn't do anything. They're just like, oh, we're writing this off as a search and rescue, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, bye. And I'm in McCarthy, and I have no resources. And McCarthy's a really tiny town at the end of the road. You guys have been there?
I have not been to McCarthy
I've been there a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I love McCarthy.
Just the journey to get there, too, right? Because you got to go past, like, was it Freedom Falls?
Liberty Falls.
Liberty Falls, there
Freedom.
You go.
Close.
Yeah, that was close enough. But, like, that's like a hidden gem in itself. The tent platforms, you go down, you're like, oh, I'm at the bottom of a waterfall. This is all.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And then you go down this long-ass dirt road to basically to
60
nowhere.
miles. It used to be, Yeah, but so McCarthy became a town. It was still to this day the world's richest copper discovery. And so...
It's Kennecott, right?
Kennecott, yep.
I still need to make it up there. I've heard very cool things about it.
You should go. It's cool. It's and so copper, like energetically too, is a very high vibration mineral, and it's very anti-inflammatory. It's used in a lot of like healing paradigms. And so I have this idea that McCarthy's like this vortex. There's this vibration of the town.
That's cool.
That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
I feel it when I'm
Yeah.
there. And so I landed there. I didn't have any resources. The town was shut down. Usually after Labor Day, a lot of these small Alaskan towns aren't providing tourism services. So that was unfortunate for me, but really, so I showed up, and I think folks are like, who's this girl? What does she need? Can we help her? And so someone gave me a ride to the bar. They were still open. That's cool. And so
That's pretty standard for most Alaska towns.
oh yeah, they stay open when the tourists leave. And you know, and I was there wasn't any accommodations. They closed down, but the brothel where the strippers used to stay in McCarthy, the owner Neil was like, well, for $100 you can stay in here. And I was like, I didn't have a tent. I left it. And I was like, I will do that. And so Kennecott was like where the mine was, all the working happened, and McCarthy was kind of the party town. And so I'm at the bar, and I'm buying food, and, you know, I'm under 21, so this old person buys me a drink because they feel bad. And my arm is, like, Sam-splinted. And, like, folks were like, oh, do you need a shower? This old woman even offered to, like, wash my hair.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, because it's like we had to, for me to change my clothes, and not like move around my arm. And, like they helped, like just undress me and help me. They were so kind. And then, you know, I needed to get back to Anchorage because it's like the APU cohort, the instructors and the students were going to be there in like 2 or 3 more days. But I was like, man, $100 a night, $30 a meal. I was like, I'm a college student. I can't afford this.
Yeah.
And then I hitchhiked back to Anchorage, which for me was an adventure too. I'd never really hitchhiked.
Yeah.
And so these 4 Texans picked me up. That was a journey. And I get back to Anchorage, and this is way before Google Maps or having anything on your phone. They're like, where do you live? I was like, APU, and the dorms are like, where is it? I was like, I don't know. I just moved here. And so we drove around, you know, stopping at gas stations, asking for directions, like we used to do.
That's how you used to do it,
Yeah. Or MapQuest. Print off the whole MapQuest. Remember those?
And then
like
when
several pages.
and then when you took a wrong turn, you would like call your sister or someone that was at home and had the internet, so they could look it up.
I do remember that. Jesus, at times I've changed.
And then I landed back in Anchorage at the dorms, and the Roman Dial, the rest of the professors and the students came back a few days later, and ta-da, packrafting.
So that was the intro.
Yeah, I got my ass kicked.
Well, Roman Dial is like the guy that's made it the most popular, right? He's like the OG.
Yeah, Dick Griffith was, I think, the first person. One of the early, thank you. So Roman Dial and Dick Griffith, they were using packrafts in the Alaska Wilderness Classic, right? That A to B, small town to small town, overland travel. And the ethos with that is whatever you start with, you have to end with. So if you start with a bike, you can't just ditch it.
Right.
And so Dick Griffith, you know, bought some sort of like dinky, rubber ducky pull toy raft and was using it to cross rivers. And I think Roman Dial and other folks that were doing that adventure race in I want to say 80s, I might be wrong, were like, well, we can ride the rivers. And so Roman Dial really, he's such an accomplished adventurer, was kind of a pioneer in that way with, okay, how can we keep riding the rivers and integrate this into the land travel? In Alaska, rivers, as you gentlemen know, being from Alaska, are fast and cold and dangerous.
Yep.
And so the Roman was really getting into whitewater very aggressively, very quickly. And so were other Alaskan adventurers, but without, I think, the adequate gear that someone else might have in other contexts if you were road boating. But it's as fast and light. We used bike helmets. Sometimes folks didn't have dry suits.
That sounds cold.
PFDs might have been like inflatable one. Like there was all sorts of weird jerry janky stuff to save weight.
Yeah.
And the boats were not whitewater crafts.
Right. Well, that's
Right.
where innovation comes from, right? Is those niche
Yep.
like sheep hunting and stuff that really changed camo and backpacks and boots and all that. So because people are trying to figure out the weight situation.
Yeah, how can we save weight? And so the boats have gotten heavier, but they've gotten so much more high functioning, where they are whitewater vessels now.
Yeah.
And packrafting for years, decades, we were made fun of and considered a joke because of the ridiculousness of the craft with the type of water we were trying to navigate.
Yeah.
And also with the cutting corners with safety gear and training.
Yeah, well, I can understand the last two, but that's cool. It's come a long way. So, I mean, I don't know too much about packrafting. So I guess, like, what is a standard, like, boat weigh, like a raft weigh?
8 to 12 pounds.
That's not bad.
They can get heavier. And there are slightly lighter ones that might not be as appropriate for whitewater. We call it light water. Lightweight and maybe less performance oriented. Alpaca raft. The person who started Alpaca Raft, the story behind it's very sweet. There's this cool documentary called Sherry, but Sherry Tingey and her son Thor were living in Alaska. Sherry Tingey had been a whitewater kayaker in her heyday, in her youth, in the Jackson Hole area, and she was also sewing like ski clothes. Like started her own brand. And so, she had a background in outdoor gear design and manufacturing, and her son Thor Tingey was a student of Roman Dials who. So Sherry made the first pack raft. She glued the tubes together, got this boat going. Roman and Thor used the boats, and they called them shiver boats. It was cold, and they're in the Arctic, and the boats range in a big traverse. And Thor was like, "Mom, can we make these boats better?" Roman's like, "Sherry, can we make these boats better?" And they were making these boats in Alaska, so there was a lot of Alaskan feedback.
Yeah.
And it was fun for me to be getting into this sport at like the genesis of it. It was really just starting to evolve and change how we can access rivers. And so starting off with these like really shitty pool toy boats and the spray skirts, right? A spray skirt is this deck over it that keeps every time you get splashed, you don't fill up like a bathtub. The spray skirts were Velcro. They were just like this like little trash bag thing you put over you, and there weren't thigh straps. You couldn't control the edges of the boat. So Sherry kept changing and making the boat technology more appropriate for whitewater with feedback from her son, from feedback from Luke Mel, Roman Dial, Tim Johnson, some of the OGs in Alaska. And they eventually moved their shop to Mancos, Colorado, where they've got a huge team. It's a big production, and now they're selling boats internationally to all
awesome.
sorts of users.
That's cool.
That story. Yeah.
That's cool. And there's been a lot of, I guess, wilderness products, just because we're kind of the mecca of adventure and backcountry and everything. So there's been a lot of like product design and stuff like that when it comes to not just like apparel or rafting or whatever, but like small airplanes. I mean, all Argos. I mean, all kinds of stuff has been developed out of Alaska.
And Alaska is such a harsh environment. If your product works well in Alaska, hell yeah, you're probably doing some good work.
Right?
Yeah.
It's quality.
There's actually a lot of the auto manufacturers that do all their cold weather testing up here.
Oh, that makes sense.
And military. So.
Products that are made in Alaskans are for Alaskans. That's good shit.
Yeah.
So and now there's lots of other knockoff Packraft brands, and that's great that there's not a monopoly on it. Right? I think it holds everyone accountable for having a good product. But it is so amazing. Alpaca makes the best boats, and their diversity in watercraft for different user groups is amazing, and they continue to change and evolve.
So, start of packrafting, your first experience where you got your ass kicked, to the culmination of now, where you have. I saw you bought your book. If you wanted to explain your book real quick, how did you get to now this school and then international. Now you guys are launching your first international film festival. And I mean, it's like you've gone from 2007 to from your getting your ass kicked to like now this massive culmination of change to now teaching and all this stuff. Like what's that story like?
Yeah. Well, where to start? So much. So I kept boating, and I kept hardshell kayaking, and I started raft guiding, and I was spending a lot of time in the wilderness in Alaska from May through September, personally and professionally. So I've had, I should check my river log. I need to update it, but just thousands of days on the water. And so firsthand, just lots of time and experience, and I just sucked for so long. It took me a long time, and you don't need to be good at something to have fun at it. I continued having fun at it, and I continued getting my ass kicked. And I had really great mentors that were better paddlers than me. And they weren't like professionally trained or anything, but their heart was in it, their soul was in it. They loved boating. I loved boating. We enjoyed each other's company, and so I continued growing my hard skills as a paddler. But it helped me cultivate more self-awareness. Is how you show up on the river is how you show up in your life. It's really interesting. And so watching myself be scared, be happy, and I was never bored or be tired or be hungry and just show up on the river. It was really it continues to be a transformative process, and I'm a psychology and, healing background. And so it's watching the river heal me. And as I continued to evolve and become better, I was stoked to share that with other people. So I started teaching packrafting for Jim Gonski. He ran Alaska Kayak Academy. I was teaching kayaking for him, and I love teaching. I love, like sharing the light. When I light up about something, I'm like, this is the juice, drink it. My friend jokes I'd be a great cult leader. I'm like, it'd be a good cult. And so it was so fun for me. I spent my summers teaching and guiding and just sharing the stoke of rivers and wilderness in Alaska.
That's like the perfect recipe for a good teacher.
When you love something.
Yeah, 100%.
And there's so many, I have a lot of friends that love paddling and they love the river, their heart's in it. It's interesting. That doesn't always make you a great teacher. I think it can, but I still remember what it's like to be so scared, or I really remember the process of learning. And I love breaking down teaching methodology where how can I get someone to catch that eddy and feel confident and have fun. Because we can be our own worst enemies in our heads. Like, I suck at this, I suck at this. And when I was, kayaking, it took me a long time to get a roll down. I'd be upside down, and I'd be like, you suck, you're going to die. It's like, well, I'm probably not going to perform well when I'm telling myself those things.
That's right.
Right.
You start to believe it.
Mindset's everything, 100%.
Yeah, that internal dialogue's more important than we realized early on,
Yeah, thoughts are things, right? As a man thinketh, so is he. So are they, whatever. So I think as an educator, remembering those things, and then too, I'm sure it really helps if you're a good teacher. I was chatting about this with my sidekick Justin. You're tuning into that person.
Yeah.
And you're trying to be with them where they're at. And I think too, I'm your teacher, I'm your guide, or maybe I'm your packraft guru for the day, but I'm not better than you. And so there's not this separation as I am this and you are that. It's like, here we are having that experience. I'm going to try to tune in to where you're at and see if I can. There's lots of ways to teach. If I can show you, if I can explain, if I can get you to kinesthetically have that experience. But I try not to say safe. Safe's a fake word. Nothing's safe, right? Everything's got elements of risk to it.
That's right.
But if I can make this as safe as possible or as low risk as possible. So in learning, we say optimal arousal. I want to really stir you up, but the moment you're fucking terrified, like the learning stops.
Yeah.
You won't remember how you did or how you got there or what happened.
Yeah. And we've had this conversation too, because we run a real estate team, right? And getting to also learning how people learn.
Yeah.
Because not every person is the same. you know? And so instruction has to change depending on the individual,
Yeah.
right? Certain people respond to certain things, you know, like, you know, Billy was, a leader in the military. And so obviously that environment was a lot different than how he instructs agents.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure they wouldn't react the same. He was like, get your ass on that paper.
I felt that with packrafting when we get folks in the military.
Yeah.
They're like, no, yell at me, tell me what to do. And I was like, I think the river's scary. I don't want to get yelled at. They're like, no, we like it. And it's
I know, we like it.
And it's been fun to diversify my teaching style depending on who I'm working
Yeah.
with.
Have you worked with anybody from like the Knowles group out?
Half of our staff team are Knowles educators.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I probably know quite a few of them then.
Oh, cool. Big, small world.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Alaskans. The Alaskan Knowles crowd is awesome. And they've got so many soft skills with how they relate with and teach and meet with people. That's a big part of their curriculum. And so I love having the Knowles crew on board with the Alaska Packraft School. They're teaching me stuff. And I love that with the staff team. We're all learning from each other all the time, like different ways to explain things or a different view on risk management. They're professional educators, and Knowles does a great job with their teaching methodology.
Do you guys get a lot of? I mean, since you guys are have quite a few of the Knowles instructors, then do you guys get a lot of military then with the packrafting or interest?
We have, but not because of the Knowles.
Okay.
And our courses are typically shorter too, and we are teaching group management and some of the soft skills in courses. Yeah. But we haven't. Our student body keeps changing, but we do get a lot of military folks, but it's not like groups of them.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, okay. So obviously love teaching. That sounds like, you know, obviously the transformation of just doing, learning, the passion for it turned into teaching, and then now the school. Yeah,
so I work with an astrologer, and it's funny. She's like, I know you're having a hard time, but like meditate on this new moon. There's going to be a big shift. I'm like, okay. And that was, I had to leave the folks I was working for. They were great guys, but I'm a Taurus. I'm not bossy. I just have better ideas. And so I had all these ideas with how they should do things and how I wanted to do it. And I think they were my friends, but we were just clashing, horns, just hitting each other. And so, that night I woke up and I was like, you got to start your own business. You got to do your own thing. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, God. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
Something to learn.
Mm-hmm. And so I started the Alaska Packraft School, and it was just me teaching, and this was pre-COVID. So, I called it the Jule Show. I'm out there teaching, and there was such a need for it. I turned away over 100 students, and I didn't want to water down the product or run myself dry. And so I started teaching, and it was so fun. Being a good enough boater and a good enough educator, my friends were like, can I come? And I was like, actually, I need a safety paddler. And so I was, teaching technique and river reading, and they were growing their skills, but they were helping me run the courses.
That's cool.
And so it was, I had volunteers making it happen the first year, and then COVID happened. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, man, okay, I'm not teaching, I'm not guiding. And I was meditating, and I got a little download. It was like, you're going to write a book. I was like, what? Whoa. And so that was in the fall. And I started writing this. I started making an outline and going to the drawing board and trying to write kind of an Ayurvedic psychology, alternative lifestyle medicine, and methods to healing. But it wasn't coming, and it wasn't fun. I was having a hard time writing it. And then I was paddling with I think Russell Biggs, rest in peace. He died a few years ago, and Tim Johnson. And Russ goes, "Hey Tim, are you ever gonna do an update for the Alaska Whitewater guidebook you wrote?" Tim's like, "Nah." He's like, "I don't want to pay the money and do the publishing." And Russ is like, "I'll help you out." And Tim's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna do it." And I was like, "Wow, maybe I could write a guidebook." And so I'm like, Tim's not going to do it. Roman's not going to do it. I asked them, and Luke wasn't going to do it. Luke Mell, he wrote the Packraft Handbook. Great resource for anyone getting into any type of packrafting. And so I was like, oh, I can do it. I can write this book. Neat. And then, so conveniently, COVID summer, I wasn't guiding. I wasn't teaching that much. Probably if I used to teach 100% of the time in the summer or guide, it was now 2 to 5%. I'm making up numbers. And so I had this freedom.
Rough estimate.
Yeah.
Rough estimate.
Yeah. When Justin and I worked together, he goes, "You're making that up." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." But I think it's about that. It's a concept.
Ish. I always say ish.
Ish.
It's like ish,
Well, and that's too, like when you're doing river stuff, you got to go with the flow, and you have plan A and plan B and plan C. You have this outline, but things usually don't go as planned.
Right.
And so, in teaching, we say pivot. Okay, now what?
Yep.
And so,
which is actually a skill that most people have a hard time doing.
Diverging from the plan.
Yeah. Or critical thinking. So be able to change that plan as the plan is evolving, right? Or something that is in your plan does not go right. You're like, oh shoot, right? Plan B did not account for this.
And I think a lot of it comes with your preparedness. It's like I'm going to have the resources with me to be able and kind of plan that the no plan.
Yeah.
Like we're planning to pivot, but we don't know what it's going to look like. And it's like an artist.
Yeah.
It feels real creative in that. And so that's what the summer looked like. I made this outline of, I call it the hard hitters. So what are people packrafting? What do they want content on? And where can I steer people to go? As the Alaska Whitewater Guidebook that Tim Johnson wrote was, I think, critiqued as a Class 5 hit list. And it was. There's a lot of NAR, grade 5 runs in there that most people weren't doing. Or the water level information or the access points weren't quite relevant to packrafters. So it was a great resource. But limited. And Andrew Embick wrote Fast and Cold. That was the first Alaska Whitewater Guidebook that was incredibly outdated. It's hard to find now. It's out of print. If you ever get your hands on it, though, how he wrote and what he wrote about was so inspiring. He's very in it. That really consumed him, paddling. But rivers in Alaska change. So, the stuff he wrote about in the 70s and 80s, some of that information is still useful, but some of those rivers have changed, or there's different access that he, didn't write about. But he was a hardshell kayaker, not a packrafter. So there are these two resources that are still valuable, and if anything, they're historical and great to read. It's like, or can show you what folks are paddling, and they had a lot of grade 5 runs in there. I'm not currently a Class 5 paddler, and most packrafters are not. So
is that just because? I mean, forgive my ignorance here. Is that just because of the craft, like the boat itself doesn't handle as well as some of the whitewater or other?
I think
like
it's the craft
or?
and the users. And so you think about the harder and like the more upper echelon you get with any skill, the less users there are.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hardshell kayaks, though, for paddling, Class 5 are probably the best craft.
Yeah.
And so they were hardshell kayakers, and they were both like intense men really getting after it. And so there's so many users that stay in the Class 2 and 3 range. And I think especially with packrafters, because it's so entry level and beginner friendly, most folks aren't going to dabble in the grade 4 and grade 5 runs.
That makes sense.
And so the Alaska Packraft Guidebook, I focused on Class 2 through 4. Hard hitters, 3. Most trips aren't longer than 3 days, so it's a mix of talking about the approach. Right? Is it a road run? Is it a fly-in run? Is it a hike-in run? So some of the route information is shared, but then the river portion, where the put-ins and the takeouts, so where you start and where the trip ends for the river portion, options for putting in and taking out, how that might affect the difficulty or the level of the water, And then what's really great about the guidebook, it's Packraft specific, Packraft relevant. So if there's some water levels that really aren't appropriate for Packrafts.
Yeah.
It's too big or too gnarly. And then there's some water levels that are like really appropriate for Packrafts because it's, the crafts are different than rafts or kayaks. And so having had 15 years of firsthand experience on the rivers I wrote about as a kayaker, raft guide, or pack rafter, making this resource for these smaller, I say soft boats, inflatable boats.
Well, it sounds like you made a really consumable product that's relevant to the most users.
Yeah, and it's really fun to watch who's buying it.
Yeah.
Right. I got 2,000 books printed. Next time I'm going to do print on demand because what do you do when 2,000 books show up at your house and you move every 6 months? You're like, whoa, this is a lot.
Yeah.
Each box of 20 books was 70 pounds.
What's your book called?
Alaska Packraft
Do you
Guidebook.
want to show it off real quick?
Yeah.
I actually want to get one of those. Where can I find one?
If you're in Alaska, so there's a very few copies left. We've probably, in our Justin and I's possession, we've got 10 to 15. We're trying to hold on to those. We sell them on alaskapackraft.com. If you're in Alaska, though, you can go to AMH, you can go to REI, you can go to Hoarding Marmot, you can go to Alaska Raft and Kayak.
Nice.
It's $40, and it's got 70 rivers, premier rivers and creeks in the 49th
Nice.
state. But all sorts of levels and approaches and
I know
styles.
somebody that would like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks awesome.
Oh, thank you.
That's a large book too.
300 and something pages.
How long did that take you?
So that COVID summer, I was either going on new trips or doing repeat trips and then documenting them. I turned that into my job. I was so fit, just going on trips all the time. That was cool. and I had trip partners. I had other guides and friends that also were not working.
Yeah.
So, because you can have the time, but who
Right.
else has the time?
Right.
And so it was a really special summer to turn that into my job, going on the trips. So I did that COVID summer, and then the next summer I was guiding again, but I did the fill-in trips, or I went and repaddled rivers, or got photos I missed, or kind of cleaned and tidied it up. And guiding season ended in September. I did the page layout and design from October through December. Joe Stock wrote the Alaska Factor. And I believe you don't do anything great by yourself. You invite folks to help you or guide you or mentor you. And so he steered me to Kristen Conan, who helped him do the Adobe InDesign work with his book. 'Cause most guides aren't like, it's not like, I don't know how to do graphic design and page layout.
Yeah.
So I paid her to teach me and set up some templates. And then I spent 3 months plugging the content in and editing photos and reaching out to advertisers. 'Cause how do you self-publish? You need a chunk of change. So mostly Alaskan businesses. I got money from them in exchange for quarter page, half page, full page advertisements in the book. And so it went. I sent it to the printer in December, and it's funny. You do all these like bids and stuff, and I want to get it printed in the United States, but it's so expensive.
Yeah.
So I worked with Todd Publishing in Anchorage, Alaska, and I sent it off. I think by the time we did all the final editing and blah blah, it was January. The books didn't get printed until. It was actually my birthday, April 22nd. So my birthday is on like every box. I was like, cool. That's serendipitous.
That's cool.
But then they're coming from China, and they didn't show up until like July 5th. And we did the first book sales and book signing at Girdwood Brewery on July 7th.
That's cool.
And I was like, oh shit, when are the books coming? I hope they're here in time.
Yeah,
I
no
was like, it's going to
kidding.
be so embarrassing. Book sale,
Yeah.
book signing, just kidding. And I invited Luke Mell to come with his book, and Timmy Johnson. He had a few copies of the Alaska Whitewater Guidebook, and so it was a real fun community event. And yeah, we sold and hustled a lot of books. I got real drunk and partied. It was a great night.
That sounds like what a book signing should be.
Yeah,
this
is so bad, but I was drinking, and then like I just honored. I felt so honored. Folks were in line to buy a copy and get signed. I love connecting with the community.
Yeah,
and like by the end of it, I was signing books. And I just started drawing dicks.
Here I come.
I was signing books. And I just started drawing dicks, like to folks I knew, and I just like drew a dick, and they're like, "You didn't even sign it." I was like, "Oh yeah, okay." It was a really, really fun evening.
that's hilarious. I love that actually.
Yeah, so
if I get a book, that's exactly what I would expect.
yeah, fun. Yeah, book signing was real fun. The guys at Girdwood Brewing are awesome, and my house, my cabin's in Girdwood, and so it felt just like a fun thing to do. In the community, and everyone loves Girdwood Brewing. It's a great venue.
Oh man, I love their beer.
Oh, it's funny. Their beer doesn't have to be good because it's in Girdwood and there's no other breweries, but it is good. It's great.
Yeah, it's some of the best beer I've had. So especially, there's with Alaska breweries, like there's so many options, but they definitely make a really good product.
Yeah, a lot of microbreweries have popped up in Alaska, and not all of them are good.
Yeah. So then we get the book, how you got into teaching. What led into a film festival, like an international one?
International. So, are you guys familiar with the Northern Aspects Film Festival?
I'm not.
Nope.
Greg Stafford and Emily Baker founded that a few years ago. It's Alaska adventure stories, like snow machining and skiing in Alaska. And they, I don't actually know anything about film. And so watching my friends start this film festival and it really bring the ski community in Alaska together in the winter months. And, too, with I think you don't need to be a professional filmmaker to make a great film if you have a good story and a GoPro and you go out and you do it.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the ethos behind their film festival. And to watch it really take off in Alaska, really set a fun vibe, but also the films in there are awesome. And they're fun to watch. They're entertaining. Greg kept saying, we need to do a Packraft Film Festival. We got to do a Packraft Film Festival. I was like, nah, that's a cool idea. And we were on the Marañón River 2 years ago in Peru. It's it's called the Grand Canyon of South America. It's amazing, big water. So we had just done a bunch of plant medicine ceremonies, and we were doing an integration river trip.
Yeah.
And so spending time in nature with the folks you blasted off with, and you're on this 7-day trip, and the seed, it really took off. International Packraft Film Festival. It's bigger than Alaska. It was born in Alaska, but it's all over the world. And so can we, create an opportunity for filmmakers and storytellers to share their trips with us. So we started advertising for it in spring 2024, but we really started taking it seriously fall 2024.
Yeah.
And the ethos again behind it is celebrating the diverse culture of Packrafts, where they came from, what they're doing, different adventure stories and styles, and different professional, amateur styles of films.
Yeah.
From different user groups.
How many? And then when is it again?
The world premiere is May 12th at Beartooth in Anchorage, Alaska. We also, May 19th, is a screening in Fairbanks.
That's cool. Yeah.
So we have these world premieres, which we say IPFF, International Packraft Film Festival, and IPFF, part of our crew, we've got a leadership team of 5, will show up and MC the event. We'll bring raffle prizes and kind of host and organize it.
Yeah.
And there'll be crowd voting for the films, because we've got a Packraft we're giving away.
That's dope.
We've got Ultralight 10.
That's good enough reason to go.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So the filmmakers, there's some big prizes, in the raffle tickets there's some big prizes from some of the sponsors we've gotten. So those will happen at the world premieres. And then like other film festivals do, after the original premieres, you can purchase the screening rights. So, and this is where I really am passionate about it. I'm on all these nonprofit paddle sports boards, and everyone needs more money.
Yep.
And is looking for community events and fundraising opportunities. So you can buy our hour-and-a-half program, and you can have your own events. And
That's cool.
So we've got screenings scheduled for all over the world.
That's a smart idea.
How many submissions did you guys receive?
We had 70.
Oh, that's a lot.
It was so fun. There's so many types, and it was really hard. So we watched all of them. Some of them multiple times.
Yeah.
Making the
How
program.
long did it take to watch? 70?
Hours.
Yeah, 70 plus.
And then how do you pick? There's so many.
Yeah.
Yeah. What we did, and this is again Greg and Emily having had some background with how they picked the films for their film
Right.
festival. The leadership team of 5, we all watched them, and we rated them on 1 through 10. And then also sentences of feedback. If we do play it, what should we change, or how
Right.
can we edit or shorten it? To, we don't have like full length films. The longest one, the length we were going for was under 15 minutes. And we did get submissions longer than that, and we encouraged and invited people to cut it so we could play it. But that process took a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But I started
Yeah.
watching them as they rolled in too.
That's cool. Yeah. There's a few different filmmakers here in town that I know that do. Actually, they got one of their films entered into one of the California film festivals or something like that. So they're doing a screening in our new gallery this
Cool.
weekend. But
What style of film festival is that?
the film's called Contra. It's like an action based, like almost like a Die Hard. I think if I was a filmmaker and I heard me describing this, I would probably be like, "That's not true." This is like Joe Blow off the street looking at the thing and like the first little submission part of it. But it's like an action style deal, and so I don't know the film festival style that they entered, but I know Bradford Jackson in town does a lot of filmmaking stuff, so he's part of that. He might be a good person to reach out to too. He's
Cool.
Yeah,
And
but-
especially for next year, we're really excited about getting just the diverse user group involved.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah.
so many ways. I'm kind of into wilderness and whitewater porn. Like that's why I use my Packraft, but not everyone does that stuff. And so
Yeah.
we spoiler alert, there's like a rollerblade Packraft one.
Cool.
I was like,
Rollerblade?
hell yeah, that's so cool.
I'm gonna have to. You can't give us too information on that because I just want to just see it, just to see how the two mix.
I did that though. Roller rafting, Campbell Creek in Anchorage.
Oh, that'd be
Campbell
cool,
Creek
yeah.
bike path is next to it.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
And then you can put your rollerblades in your boat. And so again, Packraft's multi-sport.
right.
Like you don't always drive to the put-in, but there's so many good films
That's cool.
in the program. But this one just won my heart because it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's cool to see how people evolve that to their use.
Well, and to make
Right.
it fun,
Considering
and
what-
entertaining.
Considering
too.
how it started, right? It's good to see that culture continue and people,
Yeah.
and it's like constantly evolving how people are implementing these tools into their
Yeah,
adventures,
yeah, it's so fun to watch the sport grow and change. And as paddlers from around the world are discovering pack rafts, sometimes the styles of trips are really a testament to the style of country or land or terrain that they're exploring. And it's inspiring to me to see how creative people are with these boats.
Yeah, and like internationally too, it was like not just the Alaska mountains and water, but seeing what other landscapes are from around the world.
Yeah.
Like what, you don't have to give too much detail, but like what other places did you guys get submissions from?
The Amazon.
Interesting.
That'd be cool.
I know. There's a jungle cat that jumped out into the river.
Sick.
They're fighting
That's
these
cool.
weird bugs. There's piranhas, and for me, like, hell no. I'm not. No.
Yeah, I'm coming this out. I'm in that boat, pun intended.
In that boat, yeah.
Well, it's a small boat for that.
Yeah.
Some of the creatures in the Amazon are bigger than the boat.
Yeah. Oh, it's so there's and we got stuff from China, New Zealand,
Oh, New Zealand would be cool.
Norway,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
it's there. And there's I love seeing how the styles that people are styles of packrafting people are engaging in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, just to watch people interact. Like, of course, the film festival starts in Alaska, but just the submissions from all over the world and seeing that diverse,
it's cool that even despite how different everybody is, there's a common thread.
Yeah.
I think it's good to highlight that sometimes.
100%.
Yeah, exploring the water of our world.
Yeah.
Right, there's water somewhere in there, and in yoga and Ayurveda, we regard water as the element that holds and houses emotions. And so circling back, when I was just trying to figure myself out, still trying to figure myself out, I got a better idea now that I'm older. But when I was younger, and water being such a powerful catalyst for that, connecting with myself and, my mind and my spirit, and the water element, whether it's a river or lake, it's fluid. You can never paddle the same river twice.
Yeah.
And so that I really encourage you to keep the beginner's mind.
Yeah.
All the time, and that it continues to change me, and I think it's fun. I think whoever's drawn to water and paddling, there's some sort of seeking in that way. It feels like a spiritual experience connecting with the water element, and whether it's conscious or subconscious, I think anyone that's trying to spend time in, on, near, or around water is also in search of that.
Interesting. That's I haven't thought about it like that. That is healing.
It is healing. People like baptisms, right?
Yeah.
Like,
It's interesting,
you're born again.
I had learned scuba diving when I was young, and my grandfather did that with me. And then when I came back from my second deployment to Afghanistan, I spent a bunch of time on the dive boat, and I would say that one piece of, I guess that one thing was healing for me as well.
being in the water.
Yeah, I felt myself, being able to process through all that stuff and kind of, in like a safe place. And I was kind of in control, but then kind of not. And then but you have to be okay with it. Mm-hmm. It's like, this thing is bigger than me and I can only be in control of this stuff. And I think some of that growth, I think, really helped me with my transition.
Yeah, where it's, we're out of control, but we're steering the ship.
Right.
And I think like that in life.
Yeah.
Where the more comfortable you can get with being out of control, it's like the no plan, but you have the skills and the resources to trust that you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
That's life.
Having the proper toolbox.
Yeah.
Right.
Or other resources. Help. Yeah. Rope.
Yeah.
And I think experiencing that adversity, I just sent you something on Instagram about that. It was basically like this, the coach, and she's going through and doing a talk to all these other coaches and talking about kind of her theory, but she talks about how young people are coming to her without the skills to face adversity.
You're correct. And I think the younger generation, we have the information in our pocket, and if we can't access it and I don't know what to do.
Well, it's almost this, it's like life is too easy. There's been so many hurdles removed and so many obstacles removed that people aren't really allowed to mess up things. Mm-hmm. And so they don't get to navigate the world the way we did, 30, 40 years ago.
It's like Bob Ross, just happy little mistakes.
Just happy little mistakes, right? But it builds character and it builds confidence that you can navigate.
Yeah.
I think the culture around that's changed too. So, like being thrown to the wolves as a kid, go outside. Oh, don't worry about it. Let them stick that butter knife in the socket.
Go eat some dirt.
Like he'll figure it out real quick,
there's kind of, there's a medium.
Now it's like, oh, don't do, this is the outcome. They don't experience it for themselves. Sometimes, obviously, you should not let your kids do certain things. But, there's always the
fall off of stuff, though.
100%,
Outdoor sports have natural consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Living in Alaska, we have natural consequences. And, someone can say, do this, don't do that, but you don't have that experiential. You don't need to learn everything firsthand, but the lessons you experience firsthand are really powerful ones. And so for me, getting into whitewater and playing on rivers, I've fucked everything up. Mm-hmm. I've made every mistake you can make. They've been powerful teaching tools. And it's really fun with the Packraft School. I will teach from my mistakes. There's some mistakes, folks, you don't need to make. You can learn from.
Yeah.
But I try to create arenas where people can mess stuff up and then be there to help them out when they need it. That's important, right? And then they also know that if they do mess up, like someone's there, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we're so mean to ourselves. We're scared to fail. Mm-hmm. Yeah. because we have one of my yoga teachers said this. I love this a mantra: never give up, but always let go. So keep trying, do your best work. But where we suffer is we become attached to the fruits of the labor or what we think the end result will be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like what we thought, but it looks like something. It looks like how it should be. And so I love that. I'm just going to try my best and then see what happens, learn from it, and then, maybe do better next time.
It's amazing where life takes you without you knowing.
Oh, yeah.
Without you knowing where it's taking you. Right? Like
I'm just doing it. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, if you look back at when you were doing your job pathway thing in high school to where you are now, I mean, for almost most people I know, the outcome of now is nowhere close to where they thought they would be.
No, I couldn't even imagine.
And I love that. You have an idea of the destination. I used to teach yoga teacher trainings, and we do all sorts of philosophical and spiritual banter in those guys. Same with the Alaska Packraft School courses. I like to think we're all just like sharing, from our heart. But if you think about desires or passions or things you're pulled towards, that's the compass to the soul.
Yeah.
And it might not be about that end result. But on your journey, the universe is going to lay treats, drop treats, and you're going to pick them up, and you're going to get closer to this, we say self-actualization or enlightenment or just inner peace. And so the journey of what happens along the way is really, I think it's fun. And it might not feel fun. The universe doesn't do anything to you but for you. You're like, why did that car run over my foot? And it's like, I don't understand, but apparently something's working.
I have found that, as you get older, you think, you're like, I've got everything figured out, right? And then you're like, in your late 20s, you're like, yeah, I've got it figured out. This is what I'm going to do till I retire or whatever else. And then you hit your 30s, you're like, man, I didn't know shit in my 20s. And now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, man, I was like, I knew a decent amount in my 30s, but I definitely have much more like guidance now, like internal.
Just wait till you're 50.
Yeah. I feel like life tends to give you a lot of examples and life lessons and just, people that come into your world for short periods of time or long periods, right? And then they're there for a reason.
Yeah,
so.
And we say soul contracts where, it's like I date this person. Okay, they're not my life partner, but we learn from each other. We love each other, and now we're moving on. And it can be, a soul contract can be a day thing. It can be a long time. It can be years. And I believe in reincarnation. We've all been time traveling together. So I'll see you later. Next lifetime.
Yeah.
When you meet someone, you're like, wow, I know you. But
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. Yeah. Deja vu. Right?
Yeah, I've been here before.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as, all of the Packraft stuff, the film festival, your book, we always ask our guests towards the end if you were to teach another entrepreneur, business owner, or your younger self 5 lessons you've learned in life, what are those 5 lessons?
5 lessons I've learned in life, be, on the entrepreneur path. Rule number 1, keep it fun. And it might not always be fun, but it's like, can my attitude change? And then that one, so keep it fun and then lower the bar. Oftentimes, if it's not fun, my expectations are too high.
Yeah.
And it's like if I'm trying to, another one is undersell, over-deliver.
Yeah.
Undersell, over-deliver.
Yep.
Where I'm going to stay genuine and I'm going to really try to hold true with my promises and deliver what I said and then if not more. But I think expectations is really what stresses us out.
Yeah.
So keep it fun, lower the bar, undersell, over-deliver. The 4th one, I'd say listen to your heart, right? That heart space. We say the seat of consciousness is not in your head, it's in your heart. But those intuitive pulses and those feelings, like they really steer us to where we should go. And again, a lot of these are hippy dippy, but so it is. And the fifth one, this is a Ram Dass quote: "Love everybody." I don't have to like everybody, but it's, I'm a soul, you're a soul, I'm a human, you're a human, and we're all, doing something. And when I relate with reality and I love people, they're on your team.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seldomly been burned or hurt, or there's been like ill wrongdoing intentionally towards me. And I think that's the relationship I have with myself. I love myself. And then I have with the world, where when folks like you or love you and you love them, we're all trying to help each other out.
Yeah.
Because I think about, there's so many opportunities where I could have been a victim of theft.
Yeah.
Or so many opportunities where someone could have written a bad review because I messed up, and they didn't, because they saw that I'm with them and I love them and I'm just trying my best.
Right. Yeah. I like that. I think people lose sight of that. So much negativity, and people just kind of tend to gravitate towards that too much.
Yeah,
And,
especially with Facebook. Oh my God, people can be such bullies.
Yeah,
It's that disconnection, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
It's amazing what people will say online versus what they'll say to you in person.
Totally.
Yeah, there's a complete, like you said, there's a complete disconnect, right?
Yeah, and it really blows my mind when adults are bullying people. I'm like, I thought like that was childish stuff. Why are you being mean?
Yeah, I was like,
why don't you tell them tell them
right
in person, not like blow their shit up on the internet.
Yeah, some people didn't get those life skills.
Yeah,
so
I try to have
those ass whippings either. I think that's probably, some people probably need one.
I try to if folks are. I was actually recently internet bullied a few days ago. Someone commented on something I was selling, and I was like, that was mean. And then instead of like lashing out, all right, no comment, I'm just not gonna engage. But one of my yoga mentors told me this: when someone does do you wrong, if that happens, or we think about all the ill nature in the world, instead of that getting a rise out of me, instead of me being angry or disliking or hating them, I'm gonna pray for them.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna have compassion, because for some reason they think that's okay, and so whatever happened to them must have sucked to create this experience where they're gonna think they can get away with that.
Yeah, I've realized that people that typically do that have a lack of self-love.
You're right about that.
Hurt people.
Yeah. It just makes me feel sorry for people like that, because I know that in order to do that internally there's some turmoil that is creating that lash out, right? And so I realize, I was like, A, I'm not going to let it affect me, because the only thing I can control is my reaction to it, right? And then B, I'm like, they're battling something in order to do that, right? And so I'm like, I feel sorry for you for...
When it takes some of the power out of it, when you choose to process it that way, it takes the power out of that
100%
action, and arguably some of the motivators for that person as well.
Yeah, don't give them your power.
Yeah. But this could be a whole nother podcast on social media and etc. So we could this is a rabbit hole that can go on for hours.
Totally.
Well, yeah, that changed your attitude, I think, is critical.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and bigger worldly phenomenon with politics, it's like, I don't need to hate or dislike anybody. I can disagree with policies and what's happening. But the moment I get stirred up and then I decide I hate or dislike somebody, that's separating me from them. And then I think it's only going to instill more hurt. And so that was a really hard time to practice that for a lot of people. But I think it's a great virtue or skill to try to cultivate.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you?
Dun, dun, dun. I live in Girdwood. Don't show up at my house. Find me on the river. The Alaska. Which one? There's so many. AlaskaPackraft.com.
Okay.
If you're interested in swiftwater rescue, yoga retreats, paddling skills courses, that's kayak, packraft, or trying to find whether it's a group course or one-on-one coaching to get you on the water, or custom events. We do all sorts of custom and private events for small groups. AlaskaPackraft.com, PackraftFilmFest.com. But really, I think a fun way to stay in the know and about what we're doing, and too, if you dig the spiritual or meaningful banter, we try to do that on our Instagram. Alaska Packraft and Packraft Film Fest are our Instagram handles. I will also be at Alaska Mountaineering and Hiking on April 10th to chat about packrafting in New Zealand in the new Packraft boats.
That's awesome. Yeah, I follow your guys on Instagram. It's a cool channel.
We try to keep it fun.
It's dope. Yeah, I was
Thank you.
okay, these
Thank
guys
you.
are fun. I'm gonna enjoy this podcast.
I had a great time hanging out with you guys.
Yeah,
Vibing.
you as well. Well, thanks for coming on and taking time out of your day and whatnot and joining us and explaining all you do and the film festival and your book and the yogi stuff and the Ayurvedic stuff. I mean, that's cool. So
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone's looking for a mental health counselor, I mostly do telehealth and remote, but you can find my contact information on those websites. Reach out.
Awesome.
We can continue to go down the spiritual rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. And I want to kind of go to the film festival.
No, we should definitely go. And
Yeah.
I think it's cool, the combination of skills you have, because it's like a water healer.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like
Seen it.
that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, water's. I'm the conduit. Just help. Yeah, the conduit. Water's a conduit, right? And that's. Thank you for saying that. It feels that way. Just trying to help steer folks towards where they need to go. But
Yeah.
they're the ones doing the work.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, Julie, thank you for coming on. We look forward to the film festival, and then we'll and then of course the launch of your video and podcast. And so you guys will see all of this online here soon. And thanks so much for coming on.
Heck yeah! Thanks, guys.
Thanks for
Namaste.
watching.
All right. Bye.